This is our color wheel practice exercise. So you're going to need a water cup, a couple brushes, paper towels, some palette paper to mix on, and then red, blue, and yellow paint. So you should have a practice color wheel, and then here is my paint. You do not need the white and black for this though. So I'm going to be mixing my colors on the palette paper. I'm going to start by putting in the primary colors, so yellow, red, and blue, and notice I'm using a palette knife to scoop the paint onto the palette paper. We want to keep those little cups of acrylic paint clean. So always use either, if I have plastic spoons or a palette knife, to put it on the paper. So you don't want to contaminate the paint in the cups so we can use it over and over again. You can already see right there that I just broke my own rule and contaminated my yellow paint. So when you're using the acrylic paint, you want to add a little bit of water on your brush just so it flows. Not a whole lot. And then I'm using a flat brush. A flat brush has that really flat top edge. And then I put the edge right up to the edge of the section that I am painting, and then I just pull really gently. This is how I get really crisp edges. So I'm not going back and forth. I'm just moving that edge of the brush to the edge and then just pulling. And I'm going to turn my worksheet around a whole bunch just to make sure I get it correct. I like to paint top to bottom. I just find that's easier for me. So I'm going to do this with each of the primaries that are on my sheet. Alright, now I've got my primaries, my yellow, red, and blue. I should have painted those other sections that say yellow, red, and blue too, but oops. I'm going to start by making my secondary colors. So I'm going to be starting with green. So to make green, you're going to be using yellow and blue. So the two colors underneath that are how you make green. And when you're mixing green, you want to use a lot more yellow than blue. Blue is really powerful compared to the yellow. So you can see I'm mixing it in there. And I'm using a palette knife to mix because it's just good practice. You can use your brush, but sometimes it just gets paint all over the brush, and then you have colors that are not as mixed as well. So it's a good habit to get into to use your palette knife. And then as you're mixing, you want it to be green, not yellow green or blue green. So you need to find a good medium. This is one of the things to learn when we're mixing paint, is to get the hue correct. So there are color wheels in class you can use to judge your colors. And I highly recommend that you compare them against a proper color wheel so you know you're mixing them correctly. So once you have your green, I'm going to fill in the space just like I did with the primaries. And then I'm going to go over to the outer edge once I'm finished and mix the two tertiary colors. Alright, so once I put the green on the outer triangle and then on the outer ribbon, I'm going to mix my two tertiaries. So remember, tertiary colors are a primary plus a secondary, and the name of the color are the two colors you need to make it. So I'm going to take my secondary though, I'm going to take my green, and then to make yellow green, I'm going to add a little bit of that into yellow. And then to make the blue green, I'm going to add a little bit of that into blue. So you can see I'm pulling a little bit down here. Then I'm going to add some yellow in there. And then see how I'm mixing it on the side. So I probably could have even done way less green with this. But this is just practice. And then different types of paint also have different mixing strengths. So like I said before, if you're mixing something with yellow, you always want to start with yellow and more yellow. So what you're looking for is you want it to still be green, but lean yellow. So that's perfect. And then, like I said, I should have painted that little yellow square next door first, but I missed it. So then you have a really good judgment of the hue and if it's correct. Then when I do the blue-green next door, I'm going to do the same thing. So there's my yellow-green. So you can see the difference right there. And then always rinse your brush, especially once you get done with a secondary and the tertiaries that go with it. Also get clean water, because you'll end up making your colors really muddy because you end up mixing the water in there. So to do blue-green, I'm going to take some of that green I have left, and I'm going to add some blue, and blue-green is kind of like a teal color, like a sea green. And then again, if you're unsure, compare it to a proper color wheel. As long as there is a transition from one hue to the next, that's what I'm looking for. And then if you find your paint's not flowing very well, just add a little bit of water, just a tiny bit on your brush. You do not want to add too much because it'll break down the binder in the paint. Alright, so there's my blue-green, and I'm using the same technique. I'm just pushing the edge of that flat brush up into the edge, and then I just pull. Alright, so now I have my green and then my tertiaries, so green, yellow-green, and blue-green. So let's move on to the next. So now we're going to do that yellow, orange, orange, red, orange. So we're going to do all of our oranges. So to make, I'm going to paint that yellow in there. To make orange, you're going to do red plus yellow. And since it's a color that has yellow in it, we're always going to start with yellow first. There's one thing you can remember. That would be it for me. It will make your life easier. Alright, and since you've watched me paint the greens, I'm going to speed this up just a little bit. One thing to remember when you're mixing orange is to not make it too red. That is one of the biggest things that I run into, mistakes that people make, is that their orange is too red. So again, make sure you are checking it against the color wheel if you're unsure. but true orange is kind of like the fruit orange. All right, and then the same technique, pushing up the edge of the brush to that edge and then just pulling. And then I'm going to mix my tertiaries by taking that orange that I mixed into another little pile and then adding either more red for red orange or more yellow for yellow orange. All right, last is to do violet and then red violet, blue violet. So I'm going to go back in and paint the primary color sections that I forgot earlier. And then I'm going to speed this up just a little bit for you. So when you start to mix your violet, think about red violet is more magenta colored. Blue violet is what I like to call blurple. So you want to do about equal parts of blue and red. And then again, you want to look at it against a color wheel if you're unsure. But just make sure your red violet leans more like a magenta color, and then your blue violet is almost like a royal purple, is what they would call it. Alright, so as you finish, just try to make sure each hue is different and flows into the next one. And then as you're working, just really try to get your brush strokes as crisp as you possibly can. And I cannot wait to see your work. Good job.